6:31, Town of Moraga regular meeting agenda, Town Council, Wednesday, December 8th, 2021. This is a teleconference meeting. To observe the meeting, you may use the live stream link located on the agenda via the town website. To participate in the meeting and provide public comment, use the Zoom link in the agenda via the website. You may also dial in with the phone number and webinar ID in the town website. If you want to speak during public comment, you can use the raise hand feature of Zoom or press *9 if on the phone. Calling this meeting to order, roll call vote, town manager, please. Or excuse me, roll call, town manager, please.
Councilmember Sauce.
Here.
Councilmember Onoda.
Here.
Councilmember Macker.
Here.
Vice Mayor Wolke.
Here.
Mayor McClure.
Here, all present. I had asked John King to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Block that out so my big head is not blocking the flag there. So if you'd all join me with in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For all. Thank you, John, very much appreciated. Number 3, special announcements. There are none. Number 4, proclamations and presentations. There are none. Number 5, public comments and suggestions. Time reserved for those in the audience who wish to address the town council on items which are not on the agenda. The audience should be aware that the town council cannot discuss details or vote on non-agenda items. Your concerns may be referred to staff or placed on a future agenda item. Note, public input will also be taken during each agenda item. Public comment may be made on the consent agenda. So do I have any public comment for items not on the agenda tonight? Okay, I see Dave Snayer. Please let him in.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had 3 quick items for this evening's meeting. And 2 of them are a repetition of previous items. One is to request an update from the council for putting something on the agenda relative to a sound and noise ordinance for the town of Moraga. I'd requested this previously, either a duplication of an Orinda or Lafayette type of ordinance, something to be on the books. It can be modified later, can be fine-tuned later. We need to get over this hurdle and get something in the municipal code. The second issue is relative to fire abatement. Town of Moraga has, as I understand, been in violation and has been issued violations by MOFD for town-controlled properties. This should not happen. This is a sad irony that private citizens are required to comply, yet the town, as an example, as a public agency, as I understand, has been unresponsive to MOFD and has multiple violations. Again, they should be held to the same standard. The town as an entity should be held to the same standard, those of all of us as private citizens. And finally, just wanted to thank Mayor McClure for his service during the term of mayorship and his leadership on the council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Next, I see Nick Spinner. Please let Nick in.
Hello, my name is Nick Spinner. I am here today because I am running for clerk recorder in 2022 for Contra Costa County. I just want to introduce my campaign. I have been, I've worked for the IT department of Contra Costa County for 8 years, supporting various systems for various departments. I lost my train of thought. think that the clerk recorder's office can I think I can help the clerk recorder's office make improvements to their systems through automation, provide a better quality of service to people of the county. And after all, the clerk recorder's office is literally responsible for gathering and maintaining public records, which is information technology. And then in Contra Costa County, the unique thing about the clerk recorder's office is that they also oversee elections. And I really believe that the government should be an honest representation of the communities and the voters that it represents. And that's why I'm running explicitly nonpartisan. And I want to make sure that everybody's voice is heard. I have a campaign website. It's spinner4contracosta.com, all letters. This has been a very short introduction to me and my campaign. I'd love if anyone here would go to my site, read through my positions, contact me through my contact form, and I'd love to talk to any of you in more depth about me and my campaign. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. If anyone else would like to make public comment, please raise your hand now. I see Kendall Langen. Please let Kendall in.
Done.
Hello?
Yeah, we hear you, Kendall.
Okay, hi. Yeah, I have congratulations also to both Mike McClure. Mr. McClure has really changed the whole profile of the town council, and I really appreciate it. And Vice Mayor Wallace is the best underspoken town council member we've ever had. The town staff and Moraga Community Foundation communications should be halted by the town council immediately. The failure of this organization and the theft of the donated funds is just enough to say that. The Moraga Orinda Fire Department citations that the town staff facilitated, it really calls for removal. I'm sorry, this is the truth, of town staff immediately. Citations for malfeasance and dereliction of duty are unacceptable. Further, the Moraga Country Club should be ashamed. I am in possession of my own personal property, Caltrans contract. My family used to own property in the Caltrans area. This property was transferred to the town under the consideration that that property would be used for public park and recreation use. The failure of the town to require that availability of that property for the town people is ridiculous. We had a vote for a gateway access through the facility, which failed. And so therefore the public was denied participation in the transfer of the park and recreation factor in the Caltrans contract. And so now this property is used for private golf course use. And it has increased the Moraga Country Club home values improperly on the shoulders of the public trust. This is a continuously violated matter by the town council and needs to be addressed. The movement of the putting green for a parking lot, which if any of this town council approved, is absolutely a violation of public trust. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Do we have any other public comment at this time? If you do, please raise your hand. Use the raise hand feature. I'm not seeing any. Marty, would you confirm?
That is confirmed. No more.
Okay, so I'm closing public comment and bringing it back to the council. Moving on to item number 6, adoption of the consent agenda. Before we do that, is there any item that people would like to pull? I would like to pull 6.7. Councilmember Sauce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to pull 6.5, please.
Okay. And any other consent items to be pulled? Seeing no other objections, may I have a motion to approve the other consent agenda items?
I'll move.
Sure.
I move approval of the consent items 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, 6.4, 6.6, 6.8, and 6.9.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Councilmember Sauce. We have a second by Vice Mayor Wolke. Roll call vote, Town Manager, please.
Councilmember Sauce,
Yes.
Councilmember Mocker,
Yes.
Councilmember Anoda,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wolke,
Yes.
Mayor McClure.
Yes, passes 5-0. Okay, 6.7. Okay, I had a little trouble following this, and there were a couple pieces. We could do this a couple of ways. I can go through several questions, or perhaps staff could do just a brief summary of this item.
Why don't you go ahead with your questions and we'll answer those.
Okay. Okay, very good. So this request seems to relate to the NV5 increase of 332,000 and our share is 38,000. Okay, and before I get to that, I wanted to ask about the table on page 5. So, so that I understand that. So the first column here is, and this is the table said project funding by phase. The CIP budget approved 623.21 total, $12,130,000. So that was our estimate during the budget process. Would that be correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I see there's Brett. All right. So then I see the next column, and this is where I get a little confused. So we have 2 columns for the HBP budget. In the comments, I see that on March 12th, that Caltrans HPB increased the total program budget to $12,775,000. And yet then I see the HBP allocated budget as of November 14, 21, a later date of only $10,260,000. And I see some comments here talking about the need to adjust that. What I'm confused at is if they agreed in March to increase the budget to $12,775,000, why was it in November that we were showing a budget only $10,260,000? So I'm just confused there. If somebody can.
So there's a distinction, so you understand, between what they budget for you, which is the program budget, and the allocated budget is what's obligated. So that's what they've agreed to pay at this point. They've agreed to all the contracts and stuff. So they have a multi-stage process to funding things. So the money is in the budget, much like our CIP, but then you still have the process like where we have to go to award contracts and appropriate the budget specifically to the contract. That's the allocated part. So we have to go back to Caltrans and get the remainder allocated. So it's a formalization process where we have to go through the paperwork with Caltrans to now allocate the money that's programmed.
Okay, all right, thank you. I think I got that. So if I were to ask you, our latest estimate of the budget would be the HBP program budget, $12,774,000, that column?
Yes.
Okay, right. So then we had estimated budgeted $12,130,000. It's now $12,774,000. Then the budget adjustment is the difference. There's an increase of $644,000. And our matching share is $73,867. So I'm trying to understand how that figures into the picture here. That would suggest to me we have an additional $73,000. It's not in the budget that we have to take care of.
That would be correct at this point. We need to appropriate another $73,000 to this project to maximize our return. Obviously, Caltrans is paying at an 8-to-1 ratio roughly. So we're getting a really high leverage on this and for this investment. So
Right.
in order to optimize what we get, and there's things we need to pay for at this point. There's the cost of the project is costing us this much.
Right, okay. So we're not talking about that piece on this agenda item tonight. We're talking about the NV5 increase of 32,000, our share is 38,000.
Yes,
Okay, great. So at another time, staff will come back and give us a presentation on this additional 73,000.
I anticipate that we will be coming back in the near future to talk about this because we're getting close to wrapping up this
Okay.
project.
Right, and that's great to hear, by the way. Okay, so I won't ask you any questions about why that's increased. I'll wait for that agenda. Okay,
Okay.
very good. Thank you. That was very helpful. Now, moving on to NV5. And I see the notes here, and there's a reference that Amendment 6 is to cover work performed for additional scope of work. So then I'm now referencing attachment. There might be B. I believe it's attachment B. It's the letter from NV5, December 1 to Sean Knapp. And there's a list of 1 through 12 on the items.
Okay,
Okay, I just want to make sure we're in the same place. Okay, so I just go through these and some of these, I'm just wondering about if they're really scope of work. So just take the first one. It says emergency in 2020. You know, with COVID and the California fires, Northern California fires, the supply chain was severely affected. I don't dispute that. Resulting in additional materials, submittal reviews, and additional alternative designs of the wall to utilize materials that were available to complete phase 1. With that, unless I'm reading it wrong, we had COVID, they had supply chain issues, costs went up. But when I think of scope of work, I think, well, we changed something in the scope we gave them, and separate from COVID impacted them, and there's an additional cost and they want to pass it on to us. So could you help me with that?
well, some of the costs like the emergencies, technically what was kind of happening going with on supply chain issue was they were trying to find, we were using our engineer to help find solutions to get an alternative to deal with the fact we couldn't get the supplies we needed in for that that material wasn't able to get there that was designed for originally. So we were looking for alternatives. So we had to go back to the engineer and have them try to find alternative solutions for the design. So there were some costs that were incurred in the engineer trying to redesign it to find solutions to work around the supply chain issues.
Okay, so the supply chain issues impacted our accessing supplies, not their supplies.
It impacted the contractor's supplies, so which meant it delayed the construction. So then the engineer needed to come up with alternative solutions for the design that wouldn't delay the construction as much, because delays in construction mean we could end up losing funding with Caltrans.
Right. So if it's really the contractor then having the supply chain issue, getting materials, which then impact the design, I'm still not hearing anything where we changed our scope.
Well, we changed the scope by going back and redesigning the design in construction. The design was already designed. It was in construction. We had to come up with a design alternative. So they had to come back and redesign it in construction.
Mike, can I clarify something?
Go right ahead.
Thank you. And you're asking good questions, and I spent quite a bit of time the other day with Brett and Cynthia, or town manager Battenberg, on this particular item. One thing to keep in mind is that, you know, the contract was originally signed back in 2013, and it's kind of hard to find. The type of contract that we have here is time and material with a not to exceed, and which is separate from lump sum. You lump sum, the contractor takes the risk. With time and material, we take essentially we take the risk of things like what we're talking about here. And so you need to keep that in mind. Time and material gives you greater flexibility, but you have to manage it. Lump sum, you have to better define it, but you do, the contractor takes more of the risk. And so that's a distinction here that maybe what is you know, the root cause of what's going on.
Okay, that actually is very helpful. And that answers the other question I had on that. So I have concluded my questions. Does anybody else have a question on 6.7?
So
Councilman-
I just think one clarification
Go
for
ahead.
you, Mr. McClure, before we're asking for the appropriation of the 73,000 now. because we needed to continue with this project. So that's part of what this project is asking for.
Okay,
And
So-
Director Knapp just texted me to tell me that.
Well, actually, we're asking for appropriation of 38,145.
Or 38,000, yeah.
Yes.
Right. so it seemed like there were two pieces. There was this design piece that actually was pretty clear for 38,000, and that's on the first page under request. And then from what I hear, there's going to be another request for 73,867, and that's not tonight. That was my understanding.
Well, that'll be the total request at the end to balance the budget out. Will be, we're going to total out 73,000. So the 38 starts part of it. So we'll have to come back with the rest of the balance later.
Right.
I just want to say that there may be some flexibility there. We're not done with the project yet.
Well, yeah.
Tonight, we're asking for 38,000 for the increases in our services with NV5. And we'll come back with a detailed report as we're wrapping up the project and provide you all the rest of the information. The one other thing that I wanted to add is that, well, if the town council approves this amendment to the contract, it still must be approved by Caltrans.
Yes.
So it will have a second set of eyes that will be looking and approving it. And if Caltrans doesn't approve it, then the amendment doesn't move forward.
Okay, no, that's helpful. So the NV5 design piece and the amendment they requested is what's in front of us tonight. I support that, and I'll hold the other questions for a future agenda. Councilmember Sauce.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So this is amendment number 6. And I noted reference in the staff report that their invoicing practices might not historically have been as timely as we would like them to be, which has affected our ability to, forecast and budget. Is that getting fixed, Brett? Are we comfortable that this is the last time they're going to come to the trough?
Comfort level, we're so close to the end. I'd say if there was any changes, it'd be relatively small at this point. But we've resolved the issue with MV5 to a degree. We switched project managers and did a number of things and worked out some things with them over this issue. So we think we've resolved most of this issue. They're being much more timely on their billing.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Mayor, if I may, one more question.
Sure.
The contract is for 6 years, or the amendment is for 6 years, and but the monitoring requirement is for 3. Does that mean that it's going to take 3 years to put stuff in place, and then there's 3 years of monitoring that will occur? Or I'm just curious about the length of the amendment.
To be honest, I'm not real clear on the 6 years part, but Sharon Chan is online and she might be able to answer what the length of the monitoring plan to do the installation and then do the monitoring is. Sharon, are you available?
I am. Good evening. So the monitoring period is actually 5 years.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's a 5-year monitoring period after the installation of the revegetation plan. And we're giving them, about a year. So that's going to be about a 6-year contract to kind of close everything out afterwards.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question.
Any other questions on this item? If not, I'm going to go to public comment. Would anyone like to comment on this consent item 6.7? If you do, please raise your hand. I'm seeing no hands raised, so I'm going to close public comment. And I think we'll go to 6.5 next, and then we can approve both at the same time, I believe. So Councilmember Sauce. all
Thanks,
yours.
Mr. Mayor. The reason I pulled 6.5 was twofold. One is I wanted to congratulate John and Brian on securing a $470,000 grant for the town. So creativity, persistence, great work. Thank you. But I also thought, John and Brian, if this is something that I think is of great public interest. This is a resource that is going to be in the community and is going to be in our schools, that is going to be dedicated to reducing the risk to our kids of vaping and smoking. So I was just hoping you could let us know how you see this person moving through the town and contributing.
Here, let me start quickly, and then I'm going to toss it over to Brian. First of all, the kudos go to Lieutenant South. He actually did a lot of research, found this grant. We've been talking about it, and single-handedly, with only a minor amount of editing from yours truly, got this taken care of and got the grant written, followed up with the Department of Justice and hounded them a little bit, and literally brought home the bacon. So I credit where credit's due on this one, Brian. And he knows, I think, the world of him anyway, but he did an incredible job on this, and great work for us. So I'm going to let him address the hows and whats of how this officer is going to engage.
Thank you very much, Chief, and good evening, everyone. Essentially, what we're going to do is add a 13th officer to the police department, and we're calling it a juvenile officer. And the way it was structured in the grant is this juvenile officer will be responsible for a variety of things, mostly relating to tobacco enforcement and education, but also other juvenile issues. So the idea is on the education side that this officer will be engaged in all the schools and doing presentations at the schools, as well as in the community. So community messaging, community information, parent engagement around the tobacco and particularly vaping issues. But as this officer creates the rapport and the bonds in the schools and with juveniles, there are certainly other issues that may arise that they can help with. There's also an enforcement component. The way we structured is this officer would be helping perhaps establish some ordinances, working with us in the town council that may apply, and then working on enforcement with current laws on the books. One of the things we noted was some issues with vaping at the skate park, for example. So that would be an area where this officer could be emphasized to help resolve any issues relating to that. And there's also 9 retail merchants in town that actually sell tobacco or vaping products. And so there's some things there with education. And the main thing would be education, but they will potentially do inspection visits, compliance checks, things like that. Because one of the things we noticed when we were looking at the data in terms of a survey, the kids were reporting that it's not that difficult to obtain these products. So that's one thing this juvenile officer could do in terms of ensuring compliance with the retail merchants that are providing these products. The other important aspect is training. This officer will train other officers in the department in the specifics of these types of issues. And that will be a force multiplier. So all of our officers will be engaged in this effort. So that's a quick overview, but happy to answer any other questions.
At one point for everybody, hang on, I'm hearing some background noise. Could everybody double check noise on their end? Okay, it's sounding a lot quieter. Go ahead, Chief.
So, and one of the other things that we'll also be doing is coordinating with both Lafayette and Orinda, because we, as Brian pointed out, this officer is going to be an incredible resource for us. Ideally, develop a solid set of knowledge that we can spread out. And our concerns are also, is we have 9 retailers here in town, but it's a short drive to either one of our neighboring communities. So if we can also use our this additional resource to engage our partners, we can actually have a larger effect. For example, as we know at Camp Belinda, we actually have kids from all 3 cities who attend. We have some of our kids along with the Orinda kids at Miramonte. So it's an incredible resource. And as Brian will tell you, one of my goals when I came to the department in 2014 was to be able to add an officer. And this is after many budget discussions with the town manager and the over past budgets, this is the way that we could do it. And again, it's kudos to Brian for the really excellent piece of work.
Mm-hmm. Okay, any other questions? Councilmember Onoda.
Okay, sorry, this isn't a question, but I just want to congratulate Brian also. This is fabulous for Moraga. I can't thank you enough. Good job.
Well done.
Very much.
Okay, so if there's no other comments, I'm gonna go to public comment. Would anyone want to make public comment on agenda item 6.5? I see Kendall Langen. Please let Kendall in.
I have to honestly be truthful that I don't know much about this until I just heard about it just now. But I heard Chief King say it's an incredible resource. And it's a way to add an officer, and there's congratulations all the way around. I also heard today that there was some kind of threat in the Orinda Intermediate School. I went to Orinda Intermediate School when it was called Inland Valley. And so apparently someone threatened to kill people or kids. And so I understand our concern about vaping, and I get that. I'm very concerned. And, by the way, I spent a lot of time with the LMYA trying to have recreational sports, which we no longer have in our community for kids to participate in so that they don't have idle time that is wasted. And so all I'm saying is I was really struck by what happened with what's going on at OIS. And when I heard what you were saying tonight about an additional officer, an incredible resource, and a way to add an additional officer, I think what I heard today, and I honestly, Chief, I don't know enough about what happened today to make any more comment other than what I'm saying, because it's brand new to me. But I cannot believe that people were saying to me that children are not going to OIS because they're scared of being killed.
Well, Kendall, what you said is not entirely true. You got part of it. It is under investigation by the Orinda Police. The Orinda School District is on it, and ideally they'll be getting more information out to their parents and what have you. Here in Moraga, we have an incredible relationship with both school districts. We're on a 24/7 cell phone availability to contact with our school administrators. They don't hesitate to reach out. We have had similar issues in our schools in the past, and the school officials have been lightning fast and have gotten us involved without hesitation. And we have developed an incredible working relationship to ensure that our schools are as safe as they can be.
I'm not criticizing. I'm only.
Nope, it's a piece of information that I'm providing to you.
I'm only observing, and I don't know the whole story, and I'm actually sharing it with everybody here at an equal time. And these things, like, how do we know that some of these things aren't generated by news on social media or major media? And we live in a different world now, and we all have to be very careful and take care of our kids. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kendall. Any other comment on consent item 6.5? I see no hands, so I'm going to close public comment and bring this back. I'd like to make a motion to approve consent items 6.5 and 6.7.
Second.
Motion by Mayor McClure, second by Councilmember Sauce. Roll call vote, Town Manager, please.
Councilmember Sauce,
Yes.
Councilmember Onoda,
Yes.
Councilmember Mocker,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McClure.
Yes, passes
Oh,
5.
sorry,
Wait a minute.
Vice Mayor Wilkie, Mayor McClure.
Happily, Vice Mayor Walke says yes.
Okay.
And Mayor McClure still says yes, passes 5-0. All right, okay. Adoption of the meeting agenda. May I have a motion if there's no issues?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so motion by Vice Mayor Welke, seconded by Councilmember Sauce. Roll call vote, Town Manager, please.
Councilmember Sauce,
Yes.
Councilmember Onoda,
Yes.
Councilmember Mocker,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McClure.
Yes,
I did it again. Vice Mayor Wilkie,
Yes.
Mayor McClure.
yes. Is there something you don't like about Stephen? Okay, now if there's a third time, you have to sing, Cynthia. Okay, moving on to reports. Councilmember Macker.
Thank you. Quick report from me. I'm looking forward to attending my first meeting with the Youth Involvement Committee tomorrow and getting to know the staff that works with these youth commissioners. I have a history of serving on youth committee myself, so I'm really excited about this. And continuing community outreach to introduce myself to local groups. I really appreciate the invitations I've received from Kiwanis, Rotary, and garden clubs. It's been great to meet residents and hear their perspectives. So continuing to do that through the next couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilmember Sauce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since our last regularly scheduled meeting on November 11th, I attended the Veterans Day celebration at the Commons. It was really inspiring to see how many kids were there and to see the Scouts be so deeply involved and critical to the event. So it was as it always is, moving, and really was a rallying point for the entire community. On November's 11th and 16th, and on the occasion of United Against Hate Week, I spoke to the Kiwanis Rotary Clubs respectively, and the title of my talk was Reflections on Kindness. My message was that the one thing we all have in common is the ability to do simple acts of kindness, and that even the smallest act of kindness can make a big positive difference in the lives of both the receiver and the giver. On this December 2nd, I attended the tree lighting, which was just a joyful event. Even though it was dark, you could see the glimmer and the wonder in the eyes of all of the kids that were there. And as usual, Brianna and her staff seamlessly and graciously put together a feel-good event that delighted our community. On December 3rd, I was at the meeting of the County Connection Operations and Scheduling Committee. County Connection continues to monitor closely the ridership numbers and the ridership patterns as we continue to adjust to the ongoing pandemic and altered commute and work patterns. Ridership in October was slightly higher than in September, so at least the trend seems to be moving in the right direction. And then on December 6th, I attended the SWAT meeting of the Southwest Area Transportation Committee. We went over the key milestones for next year, which include reviewing a draft of the revised La Miranda Action Plan, which is the traffic management plan for our 3 communities. That review will occur in the spring, and then hopefully will allow for final approval by CCTA in the fall of 2022. And our staff and the staff from Orinda and Lafayette are working hard with CCTA and the consultant on getting the draft ready. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Onoda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On November 15th, I chaired Art in Public Spaces. And, I think you all might be interested in Art in Public Spaces have active liaisons. We have them with St. Mary's College, with Campo, and with various citizens or residents. And St. Mary's College Museum was just reaccredited status with the American Alliance of Museums. And that's the highest national recognition that's afforded to museums. It's a very, very small percentage in the United States. So my beret off to St. Mary's College. And then Campo students and residents, artists, are adding one more series of videos that will be done soon and will be on the Art in Public Spaces website. And the Art in Public Spaces Committee is looking forward to the West Commons opening so they can bring some sculptures to the council for your consideration. And on 12/2, I attended the MCE meeting, the board meeting, and MCE will be raising rates to cover costs. And these rates will be implemented January 22nd. And the good news is that it will still be 2% lower than PG&E's rates. And then on December 1st, I listened, and maybe others did as well, to the special Cal City Town Hall meeting. and about upcoming legislation. And one thing that I thought was interesting was AB 43, and that now gives more flexibility to cities and towns to lower speed limits. And then also on December 1st, I, as well as other council members, attended the special town council meeting. And one thing I wanted to mention, and I think you probably all got it in your mailbox today, was the town's activity guide. And reading the things that Brianna and her staff have in that activity guide are amazing. I mean, she's thinking outside of the box and hitting it outside of the park. One of the examples is beer yoga. I mean, at Canyon Club, and Galentine's Paint and Pint Night. And if you look at the locations of the classes, they are all over Moraga. You know, all of the elementary schools, including St. Mary's College, including Campo, and at Canyon Club. You know, I just want to pat the staff of Park and Rec on the back, because they are really doing some amazing, incredible things. So, end of report.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Wolke. You are muted, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor, for both recognizing me and reminding me. So I also attended Veterans Day, and I also attended the closed session on December 1st, on December 2nd, so that the mayor could have fun at the tree lighting. I attended the monthly Contra Costa County Mayor's Conference in his stead. And I just want to report out on two things from that. One is the presentation was from the Northern California College Promise Coalition. And this is a coalition of about 30 different organizations across a number of the counties, both in the Bay Area and out in the Valley, really focusing on college-bound students who are both poor and first generation. And their focus of this coalition is to get them to college, B, get them through college time efficiently, C, get them through college without a huge amount of debt, and D, get them on a good early career path. They are currently have some 50,000 students in their program, and they're targeting to increase it to 100,000. It was very encouraging. Richmond is a bit of a strong leader in this. The organization there, and it's called Richmond Promise. Tom Budd is on the board of it. They got a $35 million grant from Chevron, and so they're really active with the students there. The other thing to note, Diana Beckton attended the meeting and talked about the smash and grab organized robberies that have been happening. She communicated strongly that this is not going to be tolerated. An alliance has been formed with district attorneys against 6 of the counties in the Bay Area. They had a meeting this past Monday to come up with solutions. Every case that has been brought in so far in Contra Costa County has been charged as a felony. They're really focused on this not becoming the norm and how to stop it. And as we speak, the Moraga, I'm happy to report, the Moraga Orinda Fire Department Board are meeting. It's a special meeting, and it is focused on approval to accept a $6.4 million grant from the California Department of Forestry and Fire Prevention, often known as CAL FIRE. And the purpose of this is to create the Tunnel East Bay Hills Fuel Break Project. So it starts, and this is sort of an extension of the North Orinda shaded fuel break, which they completed a couple years ago. But this one's going to start basically at the east end of the Caldecott Tunnel. It's going to go through Water Ranch, then down through Indian Valley. At Canyon Road, it's going to turn east and then turn southeast again, and basically traverse between the Upper San Leandro Reservoir and the Camino Pablo residence, or that, the along Reimer, that the homes, the Moraga homes. Once it gets beyond Moraga, and this is mostly in East Bay Mud watershed area, the fire break will turn northeast and head out, and then turn northwest and head towards St. Mary's College, at which point it'll have a break, and then it'll take up again north of St. Mary's Road and looks like it covers the area east of Bella Vista, which is good for our GAD, and Palos Colorados and Painted Rock. So Teresa, you may be able to appreciate, it kind of looks like a horse's head, actually. It's pretty wide at the north and narrows down a little bit, but it has a snout, and it covers a big area. And it's gonna be encircling about 3 sides of Moraga, actually. The schedule, Chief Winiker tells me that there has to be environmental work done, so it's not going to start immediately. The schedule that I see in the documentation indicates it's going to take about 2 years to accomplish this once they start. I think one of the messages we should take from this is that, if MOFD can get this fire break around 3 sides of Moraga, we should be able to do our fire foliage management within Moraga itself to do our end of the business. My report, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Vice Mayor. Items of interest for Moraga. MEF is celebrating its 40th year anniversary this month in December. They support Moraga School District in Camp Belindo, $2.75 million of donations. Additionally, in the past, we've commented on local sports teams which have achieved a special championship. So I want to call out the Camp Belindo girls cross country team who won the state championship in their division. Congratulations. I'd also like to mention, since we met last week, there was United Against Hate Week in our town. The town council had declared a unanimous proclamation for that. The website had a number of items, including information on as well as actions, how people can get involved, posters, banners. I did a video. Renata did an excellent presentation at Rotary. And we look next year to perhaps enhance that event. And again, another item of interest, Moraga Citizen of the Year 2014, Cliff Dockerman, had passed away since our last meeting. You may know Cliff as someone who's very involved in the Rotary group. He's the one who had the idea for the all-access playground at the Commons Park. He served Rotary for over 60 years. He was the president, the international president of Rotary, governing over 2 million members. And perhaps Cliff's greatest idea was the one that he and 2 other people came up with in the 70s with a goal to eradicate polio globally. 2.5 billion children have been vaccinated since then in 122 countries. Cliff was a true humanitarian. Additionally, I attended and spoke at the Veterans Day celebration at the Commons Park. I attended, as all council members did, the joint housing element meeting with the Planning Commission and the Town Council. I attended the mayor's breakfast earlier this month and heard about plans for a tunnel from Lafayette to Moraga, which I'm still looking at. And finally, the holiday tree lighting. And yes, I had to make a decision, Vice Mayor, and the holiday tree lighting won over the mayor's conference. But that was so electric. And I don't want to take thunder from staff on this, but I just want to say my impression was so electric. The families, the kids, the buzz, it was just fantastic. And yes, Brianna and her team did a fantastic job. End of report. Town Manager.
Good evening. You may have noticed that today the bridge was closed. They were paving the approach to the bridge. So we're wrapping up on the work, lots of final activities to meet that January 20th, 2022 opening date. So that's very exciting. We also have opened for applications to our various committees and commissions, the Planning Commission, the Park and Rec Commission, Art and Public Spaces, Audit and Finance Committee, and the Local Sales Tax Oversight Committee. So if you're interested, that information is available on the website. There's been some mention about fire abatement work. So we have hundreds of acres of land with our various parks and open space, our right-of-way, our medians, and our facilities. One of the things that we had in the budget this year was a fire abatement study. We have been responding to the notifications from MOFD, figuring out who owned the parcels, because some of them we don't actually own, and then consolidating all the work that needs to be done, working with contractors, getting bids. A couple of the jobs that were supposed to be done, it rained heavily in late October, and that made the ground too wet for the work, so it's been postponed, but that work will be done next week or in January, so we'll be in compliance. And we are, in January, we'll get underway on that abatement study that'll let us know kind of what work we need to do each year, and we'll be working in cooperation with MOFD on that. And then lastly, I just wanted to announce and share that this is Norm Veloso's last meeting, and thank him for his 3+ years of service to the town. He has really assisted the town greatly with his financial skills. We have such a better understanding of where our money is, and he's really done great work and built a strong team. And so I wish him well. He has been recruited from another city, so he's going to go work for another city. And it's, I think it's a good example of how few people are available right now in so many fields, whether it's finance or engineering or planning. There's a real scramble to keep people and attract people. So, but anyway, I want to wish Norm well and thank him for his partnership. And that is the end of my report.
Okay, thank you very much. Vice Mayor.
Yes, Mayor, thank you very much. Just very, very quickly, I want to commend the town on making good progress on their fire abatement commitments. And I really want to make sure that it's time for the residents to also step up and take care of their duties in this. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on. Number 9, public hearings. We have none. Number 10, ordinances, resolutions, and requests for action. A, opioid settlement agreement. Staff report, please.
Morning, or good evening, not morning. This has been a long enough day already. We don't need to start over. First of all, I want to congratulate or commend Denise Bazzano, who has done an incredible amount of work on this. The town manager and I were aware of this, but Denise brought it to our attention and really took the lead in developing this material. If we go back to 2017, litigation was begun by a number of jurisdictions across the country against pharmaceutical companies that produced, distributed, and dispensed opioids. For whatever reason, I stumble over that word often. In response to the nationwide crisis involving opioids that we have all faced. I've faced it in my family. We certainly have seen it in our community. If we fast forward then to July 2021, they were able to reach an agreement that provided a settlement of approximately $26 billion to be spread throughout the country and distributed to states and local jurisdictions to do work to combat the opioid crisis, as well as I think there was also some other settlement issues involving the manufacturers. But what pertains to the town is that we have an opportunity to share in this settlement, which provided about $2.4 billion to California. And out of that amount, approximately 15% goes to the state, 70% to local jurisdictions who decide to participate in the settlement, and then the 15% of it goes to the litigating entities. So what this would mean for Moraga would be over the next 18 years, a disbursement of somewhere between, I think the number is $59,668 to $72,800, which equates to between $3,300 and $4,000 a year. And in exchange for our participation in the settlement, the town would agree not to file suit against the manufacturer, those parties involved in the litigation. And the use of the settlement funds is limited, as you see in the material, in the staff report. There's providing, we can use it to provide matching funds for operating costs for substance use disorder, and create newer expanded treatment infrastructure, address the needs of vulnerable populations that are disproportionately impacted by substance use disorder. And the two that really come home for me in our community is preventing addiction in vulnerable youth and preventing overdose deaths and other harms through increased availability, distribution of naloxone, or Narcan, as many people know it, and to combat overdoses. And our officers, if you weren't aware, already carry naloxone. We reached an agreement with the county health department a couple of years ago. And so while we have not had to, thank goodness, use it, but every officer carries it. I carry it when I'm on patrol. And there have been times in the past where it would have been very useful. Our recommendation to you tonight, obviously I've gone through this fairly quickly, is that we opt in to this settlement of the national opioid litigation. And then there are a number of forms and opt-in documents that would have to be executed. And so as part of this resolution, you would be authorizing the town manager to execute those on behalf of the town. And that's the end of my report. I'm free to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, questions for the chief. I see Councilmember Macker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for explaining and all the research that went into this. My question is really intended to get a better understanding of the proposal for using the funds, not to discourage our involvement in the settlement. Can you help walk us through the reasoning behind the recommendation for Moraga to directly receive the funds versus the county, given the county's public health resourcing and expertise?
So what we would do is we see that, and first of all, we can change that up at any time during the 18-year period. So initially, we see some opportunities, especially given the grant you just approved with our additional officer who frankly, let's face it, tobacco is another substance that is abused by our youth. And so we would look to fold part of this into that over the next couple of years, and also take this opportunity to expand the availability of naloxone in our community, either through other town employees or even school employees in coordination, obviously, with both districts. So initially, that's how we see this as being the direct disbursement to the town. But I could also see in another 3 or 4 years where we've done pretty much what we can do with this small amount of money, that at that point in time, I would see, my successor coming back to or coming to the town manager or if necessary to the council and recommending that we redirect it to the county.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just add something.
Go right ahead.
So that was a great question. And just because I've been doing this with, you're my 5th and last city to opt in, they all are opting in with receiving the funds initially, but they are all understanding that if in fact they have no more use for the funds, that they can then switch to have the county receive the funds in direct payment.
And Councilmember, this was actually a discussion that the town manager and I, along with the assistant town attorney, spent some time discussing, because there was exactly your point. We do have some expertise on the county level, but I think our feeling was we have some immediate needs in our community that this, even a small amount of money can help us to address. But then our thoughts would be as we go on a couple years from now is to redirect the funding, unless there are other issues or other needs that pop up.
Okay, other questions? I see Councilmember Sauce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. John, thank you for that. I also noticed that with the money comes some requirements for record keeping and reporting, and is in your estimation, is that worthwhile to do given the amount of money that is at issue here?
I think so. I don't see that it being a huge impact upon our time. So I don't really think the administrative impact of this is going to be great. We do reporting on some of our funds already. We're actually going to add to that with the tobacco grant. This is just it shouldn't be I don't think it would be a huge impact.
Yes, that's correct. And the reporting is just annually. So it's just a report annually. So, and it's not a big administrative burden.
Okay, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. And Renata, I had the same, or Councilmember Sauce, I had the same sort of concern. John, Purdue Pharma is been very much in the news over the last year or two as being one of the really bad actors in this whole opioid mess. But I don't see their name on this on the settlement agreement. Are there others potential settlements out there, and are we taking any risks of not getting access to those settlements, or is this out of
this settlement only, as the material points out, only involves these defendants in the, and Michelle can jump in at any time, but I believe it only has to do with these defendants.
Okay.
So separate litigation involving a different manufacturer, that would not be covered by this settlement.
Good, thank you.
Okay, do we have any other questions? By the way, Councilmember Sauce asked my question, so I have none. Anyone else with questions or follow-ups? I see none. Okay, let's open public comment. So if anybody has public comment on this agenda item, I see Kendall Langen. Please let him in.
Done.
Well, it appears there's not very many people willing to ask questions or comment. Maybe the town council is talking to themselves. I'm not sure. I don't know. I apologize for being the only person. In relation to the funding and knowledge of what you're talking about, Chief, right? Come on, you know me. I'm just asking this really more or less ad lib. What are the current conditions with opioids in Moraga right now with the youth and the general population? Now, let me go through a couple of other things and then I'll go back and you can ask me to review these. But how are they, I mean, I don't know who they is, getting opioids? And how is that distribution happening in Moraga or also outside Moraga? In other words, are opioids coming from outside? I don't know if that's so, because apparently, I'm just saying this on a comment, it seems to be coming from doctors. Is opioid a quiet use? Or is it, you know, like when you say, oh, these kids on the skateboards are all on opioids. I don't know. I don't think so. What I'm hearing about is more like adults who die because they're depressed. So when do you say, couple last things. When do you see this, Chief? Is it an ordinary discovery of use or is it something that happens? Where do we find this? It's sort of hard for me to understand. And I apologize, but Michelle Kenyon, I don't know who you are that well. I saw you and I don't know really how this relates, but it does regard record keeping. And what is known now about what's going on in Moraga and what is going on around us will leave us with either a path to the future or a problem. So all I'm saying is that, yes, record keeping and knowledge is the key. I apologize, Chief, for putting you on the spot with questions, and this is a comment, I know, but also I think I bring up relevant points.
So Kendall, they do come from outside. Sometimes they come from inside. Sometimes we have issues with kids stealing parents' prescriptions. Sometimes we have them buying them for $20, $25 a pill. Unfortunately, I have a lot of personal experience with this, not buying them for $20, $25 a pill. But in my family life, I have more experience than you can even imagine, and I'm not going to go into details. But it is an issue. It's an issue not only in Moraga, but in every community in our county. And is this amount of money going to solve the issue? No, it's not. But will it help to provide some additional resources for educational purposes? Will it help to provide Narcan or naloxone to make sure that it is readily available in our community? So in the tragic event that someone, be it a young person or an adult, is suffering an overdose, that there's somebody close by that could provide life-saving treatment before paramedics or other first responders arrive. That's what this is designed to do. It's not going to eliminate opioid use in our community, but it will help us to provide, and if I can use, my department can use some of these funds to help just one person decide that it is not that opioid use is not for them. If we can use this funding to just save one life, one person from an overdose, then it's worth all the record keeping and administrative duties that we might have to do. It's another tool to provide our community.
Okay, do we have any other public comment on this topic? If so, please use the raise hand feature. Seeing none, I am closing public comment and bringing it back to the council. So do we have, yes, Council Member Onoda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Chief. You know, I look at this as another tool in the toolbox. And, you know, we're not an island. And kids and adults have problems lots of times, and it's available. So thank you for doing this. And I think it's necessary. So thanks.
You're welcome. And when you kind of think about it, it's free money for us. The town hasn't had to engage in the litigation. And we're able to benefit from it and from the hard work of other entities. So it's a wonderful resource that we're able to access.
Okay, other comments? Yes, Councilmember Macker.
Thank you. Ensuring that Narcan is readily available and in the hands of those who can actually help in emergency situations, I think that's absolutely crucial. And so I'm very happy to hear that we could use the funds to get it out in other places like schools, as you mentioned. My only suggestion, I think, when it comes to the education is I hope that when it comes to the record keeping and, you know, being aware of how the funds are being used, that there's also maybe information sharing and learnings as to what type of education, evidence-based, is effective and versus, you know, are testimonials more effective? Are we hearing that from other towns and cities that bringing in recovering addicts is more effective than videos or brochures? So those types of learnings, I think, would be very valuable to ensure that the education is really, you know, making a big impact, which I'm sure you all will do your hard work to ensure. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Yes, Councilmember Sauce.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I mean, I feel like every little bit helps. And as John said, if this money can help save one life in our town, it's worth it. I think the key obviously is to use it wisely and use it competently and stick to our areas of competency. But I'm persuaded by John that that we've identified a good use for this that will benefit the community. And I like the flexibility that we have, that if in a few years we reassess and it doesn't make sense to bring it to Moraga, that we then can direct it to the county. So I'm in favor.
Okay, any other comments, Vice Mayor?
I echo everyone else's agreement and support, and I'm happy to make a motion if we're ready for that.
I would just like to offer my full support for staff recommendation. I believe we're ready for a motion.
I move we approve opting into the settlement of the national opioid litigation and authorizing the town manager to take all necessary actions to join the settlement and execute settlement agreements relating to the litigation, agreeing to the terms of the state subdivision agreements and authorizing execution of the state subdivision agreements, and authorizing execution of the state subdivision agreements and direct payment of the abatement funds to the town.
Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor, second by Councilmember Onoda. Roll call vote. Town Manager, please.
I'm embarrassed to say our printer's in here, so somebody's printing paper. Okay, I don't know, who made the motion?
The motion was the Vice Mayor with the
Okay.
second by Councilmember Onoda.
Councilmember Onoda,
Yes.
Councilmember Macker,
Yes.
Councilmember Sauce,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wolke,
Yes.
Mayor McClure.
Yes, passes 5-0.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Okay, going on to 10B, 2021 year in review. And Town Manager, if you're ready to share your screen, it would be appreciated. All right, okay, ready to go. Okay, so this is our 2021 year in review by myself. One of the things I wanted to add that I hadn't seen in the past was town council and staff. I don't want anyone to think this is what the mayor did, because we do things as a town council and staff. So I added that. Going to the next slide. There we go. Okay, so these are the goals verbatim from what we'd agreed to in January, and we're going to have a slide on each of them, so I'm not going read them here. I will remind us, we had an overriding goal of enhancing communication and transparency. In terms of progress, we made progress and significant progress in most cases on all 13 goals, except the last one, which was working with the Chamber of Commerce. You may be aware that the executive director, Kathy Nelson, announced her retirement in January. And it wasn't until November of this year, a few weeks ago, that Kathy Birdstrong took over. As liaison for the chamber, I can tell you we talked about a number of items to try to help our local businesses in Moraga, and the board of the chamber, which only has a few hours, had mentioned, let's save these ideas for when we get our new executive director. So I'm confident that there will be an opportunity next year. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is improving fiscal sustainability, and we accomplished the following. Adopted a 5-year capital improvement budget. This gave us the opportunity to look beyond 1 year and see what opportunities we had in terms of our long-term planning. We approved the initial expenditure plan for the use of the American Rescue Plan Act funds. It had a very limited definition, but that was very helpful to us. We completed the 2021 year-end comprehensive annual financial report. And as we had previously said, that was 6 weeks earlier than done in the past, and a clean audit report. That's very important. A general fund reserve as of June 30, 21 was $5 million, or 55.8%. That's $525,000 above the minimum requirement of 50%. Gives us flexibility. $2.25 million payment received from Palos Colorados. While there are no restrictions on that, the intention is to be used for recreation, as well as normal impact fees. And we made progress on unfunded needs in regards of storm drains and asset replacement. Next slide, please. This is our focus on traffic safety, and this was a new goal for the town council in 2021. And I'm so pleased that the council agreed to this, because this continues to be an extremely important goal. In terms of accomplishments, the town received a $230,000 grant to improve the striping and signage. And if you've driven around town, some of those were extremely faded, and I've actually heard compliments for improving the signage there for pedestrian safety at multiple crosswalks, as we hear of many near misses. The town also received a $40,000 grant to develop a local road safety plan to enable more systematic approach to improving road safety. So kudos to staff. There's $270,000 of grant money as we try to stretch that nickel. Moving on, there were multiple traffic safety projects which were funded this year. The Corliss Drive one-way safe routes to school. And I'd like to thank Safe Schools and individuals in the community for bringing this back to our attention. We appreciate that. That's how we work together. Pedestrian upgrade, a push button upgrade, Moraga Road and Canyon initial complete street traffic studies and conceptual construction plans. Next slide, please. Okay, this is our improving diversity and inclusion throughout the town. As most people are aware, we had created an ad hoc diversity and inclusion committee, which was Councilmember Sauce and myself. And we spent quite a number of meetings with various community groups trying to come together and craft a community mission statement, not a town mission statement, but a community, Moraga community mission statement. We made many contributions, Renata and I. We had discussions, we had side conversations. Chief King was actually on the steering committee, so we were actively involved in that. That had been socialized to a degree and has taken a bit of a pause, but we expect that to be picked up again. We also had the town with a proclamation, November 14 to 20, about the United Against Hate Week. I gave a little brief description during my report out, but the website had, I think, some great information. Kudos to staff for putting that together. I'd also like to thank Wendell for helping us on posters and banners, social media presence, and I did a video to help move this along. And a special thanks, Renata and I have to be very honest here. This idea came to us from Ann Murin, who forwarded it to us, and Renata and I thought it was a great idea, talked to staff and took it from there. So that's everybody working together. And, you know, this is a journey. So we'll continue to work on this and hopefully enhance it. And the broader ad hoc committee is continuing to move forward. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is relating to our 6th cycle housing element. This is very comprehensive. And one of the key things in the housing element, you'll see at the bottom, a little hard to read, but our allocation on housing as part of this process is an additional 1,118 housing units. That's an increase of approximately 18% in our housing stock. So as part of the housing element, we have to figure out how we're going to zone for this. That means where are you going to put them? And then are there any tools that we can use to actually make this happen? But at the end, we are not the developer. So let's talk about the specific points here. So the 2021 budget has included funding for phase 1, as this is a multi-year project. We refer to it as the Comprehensive Advanced Planning Initiative, which has the housing element, an environmental impact report, and rezone of Bollinger Canyon. We've entered into an agreement with a team of consultants to complete this over a 3 to 4 year advanced planning projects. The consultants actually worked in Orinda, so that gives me confidence that they sort of know Moraga and will work with us to keep Moraga looking like Moraga. And we spent a significant amount of money bringing these consultants in because this is a tremendous job and we have limited staff, as you know. We held multiple meetings, 2 joint council meetings, town council and planning commission study sessions. I personally thought those went very well. And 3 community meetings run by staff. And we've begun the community engagement process, the outreach process, website, flyers, notices, et cetera. So I just want to say for Moraga residents, this is really important. There's a number, not just the number of units, but there's a traffic circulation element to this. So there's a number of features. And as we move forward here, I'm sure we'll get more and more participation, but it's really important. Help us to help you. Tell us if you think we're on the right track or not, because this is going to be significant. And we still want Moraga to look like Moraga when we're done with this. And we want to do, you know, whether it's a fair share or not, it's what we've been given. And we've got to take care of this challenge. So please become involved, and staff's doing a very good job of engagement and will continue. Next item, please. Rezone the Bollinger Canyon Special Study Area. This is a continuation in conjunction with the Comprehensive Advanced Planning Initiative. The town has funded, retained the services of professional consultants, and initiated work to rezone the Bollinger Canyon Special Study Area. Next slide, please. Maintain and improve public safety for all. It's for everyone in Moraga. Moraga Police continue to investigate all crimes and offenders with very high success rate from where I stand. And the crime stats, you know, are on pace to match 2020 levels. Unfortunately, we are not an island and we see more incidents here, but I still believe, and I believe many residents, that we have a very high level of safety in town, but we are not immune to bad actors coming in. And I'm so pleased with the safety that our police force gives us. I'm feeling very comfortable, but we don't know what's going to happen. So we need to stay in touch. Thank you again for the police for all you do on this. Emergency planning efforts. So in conjunction with MOFD, we've continued to refine the evacuation plan and held virtual evacuation drills and training exercises. So in the event that day comes where we need to evacuate, we need to be prepared. So kudos to the two chiefs working on that. Postcards have been sent to every address in evacuation zones. And it's really important for residents to sign up for the community warning system. So in the case of something going on, you'll see the alerts, and that's cwsalerts.com. Okay, next item. So we put 2 items on this page. So we currently have a 3-step plan review process. And one of our objectives in the general plan is to always look for operational efficiencies. And many of us on the council felt this process was in need of a review. And we did that. We held a relatively extensive meeting earlier this year, laying out the 3 steps in front of us and exactly what should be involved in each of the 3 steps. There was some good work from staff in terms of other towns, and they only do it in 2 steps. We also had some creative discussion about perhaps creating a hybrid plan review process where you have one process for in-town in your development centers and another process for more rural open space areas. So that continues to be a process, but we had a really great first meeting on that. Then we have on the right here, implement our climate action plan. We continue to continue implementation of viable strategies in Moraga Climate's action plan, included funding for the town facilities energy generation study, which is in this year's budget. That'll give us opportunities, examine all opportunities to reduce our power consumption and reduce our carbon footprint. As well, implementation of SB, by the way, SB stands for State Bill 1383 for mandatory organic waste reductions. Next slide, please. Continue construction on the Canyon Road Bridge. This is the first bridge we've ever built, and it's just about ready to be open. So the target date is 2-way traffic to begin on January 20th. And I'd like to give some shout outs here to Sean Knapp and Edric Kwan, as this has gone on for a number of years, and throw a landslide in there just to keep you on your toes. It's been a very challenging project. And then equally important, on the right side of this slide, East Bay Mud has completed phase 1 of their flood and erosion control project to protect the bridge from future landslides. So they have 2 retaining walls. And when we had 5 to 7 inches of rain, in October, I was like, uh-oh. And Sean had assured me that at least confidence of those retaining walls far enough along to keep that hill off of our new bridge here. So seems like we've got very good progress here. And next slide, please. So pavement management program, and this program is largely funded from your Measure K dollars, which residents approved in 2012 in the form of new taxes, a 1% local tax. 74, that's the pavement condition index. In 2012, that rating was 49 for a rating of poor, and 74 is a rating of good. We plan to keep that rating at 70 or above, which means our roads are in good shape overall. Specific actions: completed phase 1 of the 21 pavement resurface program and annual street repairs, including repair of major pavement defects and base failures. And then phase 2, we have surface treatments of the streets scheduled to be completed in the spring of next year. The big initiative coming up was when we changed our strategy to worst streets first. And the next 2 years, we've initiated design work and we'll spend $8 million for this worst first pavement reconstruction program so that we can repair the very poor and poor streets in our town. Next slide, thank you. Storm drain O&M, that's operation and maintenance and capital improvement projects. I've gotten many requests in the last few years about, Mike, when are we going to stop seeing sinkholes every few years? And this is really the way that we go about it, is we invest money. And actually, most of the money we need to invest is in the maintenance program and some modest investments in the capital program. So here's what we're doing: implementing the 21 to 23 annual storm drain repair project with the ARPA, that's the rescue funds from the government, national government, funding to identify weaknesses and then proactively repair the public storm drain system to reduce the risk of sinkholes. So we have a fairly old storm drain system. It's in reasonably good shape, but it does need to be taken care of. And that's, by the way, one of our unfunded needs that we need to get a recurring stream of funding for. Moving on, we began work on the drainage, sedimentation, and slide failure study project, completed engineering design of the Moraga Road and Hacienda storm drain repair project, and initiated work on the Moraga Road drainage project. Next slide. Okay. So our town parks and open space and facilities. So we had an opportunity with Wedgwood Weddings. We had weddings at the Hacienda in the past, and Wedgwood has come in and they would like to expand that program. And for doing that, we will be receiving $228,000 of savings to offset the total cost of the Hacienda, which is $400,000 a year. That's $250 operating, $150 capital. Hacienda can still be used as a park. We will still have programs run out of the Hacienda. And we're looking forward to Wedgwood help us with professional sound management. The Laguna Creek Restoration Project, that's ongoing. We've obtained grant funding, engaged the community in development of, and adopted CEQA for 65% design drawings. So we will be continuing to work on that. Hacienda, the ADA pathway, we've completed design and scheduled construction. And the Commons Park irrigation, our 1982, I believe that was the year of the original irrigation. Well, that system has began to leak and leak significantly. So we needed to approve, I believe it was $190,000 to complete the design and repair or replace that system, most likely replace. This is a great example of money that we need on an ongoing basis for our infrastructure. We refer this as asset replacement, and we don't have a recurring stream of revenue or expense savings, and we really need to create that. So we continue to work on items just like this. Next item. So this is our last goal, and this ties to the overarching goal of enhancing communication. And this was the community engagement tour that I had come up with to deepen the community engagement by better understanding and discussing community issues. So the vice mayor and I, we teamed up and we met with 10 groups, over 160 participants who were representing 3,000 members. And what made this different was many mayors, I've seen other towns where they go out and they usually have a presentation, which is what you've just seen. We've done bridges, we've done payment, we've done parks, but it's a presentation to people. And we reversed that, where we said, okay, we're just going to give you a very short 10% overview of our goals. And surveys were sent out in advance of the meeting, and we wanted to listen. So 90% of these meetings were listening. What are your issues? What are your concerns? What do you want to talk about? And I was a little apprehensive, and yet we spent over an hour for most groups just listening to people's comments. And you can see at the bottom there, we got 17 specific actions that were recommended by the residents. I thought that was great. And you can see here's the top 7 issues, some surprises, some not. Retail services, restaurants and businesses. We want to have more in town. Financial management with our unfunded needs remains challenging, but progress continues to be made. Development, a lot of people are worried about development, whether it was the Moraga Center, the the arena allocation, state limiting local control, and our beautiful open space, and what's going to happen to traffic, which I think is already at capacity today. This is a resident talking to me. What about evacuation for fire? So there's a lot of concern about development and its related impacts. Infrastructure, we've talked about that. I was a little surprised to hear the retail look. Mike, our town centers look like they're from the 1970s. Can we get an update? And there were some specific areas people pointed out. And of course, traffic and fire safety. And I actually think it's due to the fact that a lot has been done on fire safety and evacuation, that these aren't ranked higher. The Chief Winokur with the defensible space and Firewise, and you heard the Vice Mayor talk about creating this fire belt or clear belt around our town for 3/4, and the fire code upgrades, and the list goes on, and the evacuation planning that Chief King has done with Chief Winokur, temporary refuge areas so that we're all not just going to try to create a traffic jam on Moraga Way getting out. So I think a lot's been done on that. And the final item on this slide, if you look at that middle bullet on the left, fairly important question, is Moraga moving in the right direction? 48% yes, or somewhat yes. Well, that sounds pretty good, but a little more than half aren't saying yes. And, that's a bit of a concern. And I think these issues are why. Next slide, please. So this is a little different. And this is a slide which I thought was important. And this is my reflection on opportunities for improvement. And just a minute or two on this. What is opportunities for improvement? Every person, every organization does a lot of good things, and they typically have an item or two where they can do better. Think of a person having a performance review, and you typically hear of all the good things you've done, and you expect to hear, you want to hear, hey, what can I do better? And this is really in that same phase. And as we go through a list of all these slides of all the accomplishments and good things we've done, I felt it was important to have a slide like this, if nothing else, just for the concept of thinking about what can we do to do better. To me, the best leaders that I see are the ones that hold themselves accountable. So this is my slide to say, hey, we should always, in my mind, have a culture that thinks about, discusses, learns from maybe some things that could have gone better for the reason of getting better. So I think that's a great opportunity that we should always do. And the two things that come to mind for me, I'm going to start with the Mulberry Tree Preschool. I think that, could have been done from virtually every perspective, starting with the lessee who was trying to sell her business to a buyer, the town council staff, myself. I mean, all of us, I think, could have done better on that. And Hacienda Noise. And, I don't know, maybe it was COVID and the bounce back, but it seemed like every weekend we were having noise issues. People worked hard. We tried new things, and yet it went on for a few months. So the good news there is Wedgwood's coming in with some professional sound management. And I think we've got that one behind us. So to me, I'd like to say, let's embrace the positivity of this concept, to have open conversations and learn and get better from an item or two. Next slide, please. Okay, so then with all these goals we had to do, right? And then there's a few things that just couldn't wait. So, and we always try to be very conscious that staff's busy, but these things couldn't wait. So we'll just go through them. Let's do the next slide. So the Moraga Orinda Fire Department had on their agenda, to discuss dissolving MOFD and becoming part of ConFire. And, when we heard of this, Amy Worth, Mayor of Orinda, and I talked, and we couldn't believe this was actually on the agenda. And many of us in the community talked, and the town council put together, I thought, a very effective letter, very intelligently and civilly laying out our case, why we didn't think that was great. And we had a presentation on that. And at the end of the day, I think with the benefit of everybody involved in the community, the fire department board decided not to move forward with that. So I just want to thank Amy Worth, Mayor of Orinda, for working. We talked constantly on that. Dick Olson was just a valuable resource with his MOFD board experience. And I'd like to compliment Smart Moraga for the fact-based information that they put out, and they got over 3,000 hits on their website. So it was everyone in the community working together, speaking our mind about, we don't want to lose this asset. And then just when you thought it was safe to go out again, there's another agenda item the board had, which was to increase the Moraga fire flow tax rate by 150%. And we went through a similar process, and that did not happen. So I thought this was one of the most important things we did as a team, and proactive leadership. Next item, please. So we had a couple of municipal code updates, very important. The accessory dwelling units on the right. This is basically tying into new state legislation. And the small cell wireless facilities, at least 2.5 years ago, we did a very early draft of an ordinance, and this is directed by the FCC. So we're very limited on what we can put in our ordinance, but we did a number of really good updates. And we also agreed that once these devices go on telephone poles within 50 feet of people's houses, we're just not going to leave it there for 10 years. The town's going to do some type of testing, which will be to be determined. Next item, please. Okay, so we had an application on the South Camino Pablo parcel here, and the general plan had provided for some development there. However, this is on the outskirts of our town by our city limits. You can see most of it is surrounded by open space. It's a tall hill. There's landslides, and the applicant wanted to increase the density and amend the general plan. And we just didn't think that's the right place to put additional development. In our town centers, in Ream and Moraga Center, we think that's the place we want to put additional densities at the end of the day. And so we were supportive there. The next item, that's fine. The next item, so we had a council member left, David Stromberg, and we wished him well. And then we have a new council member, Sona Macker. And I've worked on your name, Sona, since the last 3 weeks. So I think I do finally have Macker figured out. So this is our current team that we look forward to leading you in the next year. Next item. And now we're to the good part, right? We're going to thank our staff. So thank you, staff, for your dedication, hard work, and excellence. And I'm going to take just a little credit on this one. When I had met with the town manager, I said, hey, wouldn't it be great if we could have just a picture of all of our staff, and not just department heads, but actually everybody? And the town manager said, well, I've got a picture, but this person left and that person left. So I was really impressed. They put this together in a very short period of time. And I think it looks great because we get to see and be reminded of all the people who work really hard to make this town go. Because the town council, I mean, yes, we have to provide direction and policy, but the people that have to do the work, it's like, okay, Sean, we need to rebuild the bridge. Good luck. So they've got to make it happen. So I think this is just great, and staff is great. And then the next slide, that's staff. And then we have our great police department and our great town attorney's office. And we obviously need to thank them because they're both very, very, very important parts of our team. We can't do this job without them. And the next item, and yet we lost a really important staff member, didn't we? So we lost Corporal Kevin Mooney, and we thank, and I'll continue to thank him for his service to Moraga, as well as his service to the country. And we'll also remember Corporal Mooney for his starting of the Toys for Tots toy drive, which continues, and I would say flourishes today, because that's a concept that everybody can get behind. And finally, I believe this will be our last slide, to our partners. You know, one thing that is the most true about Moraga is that we are a community of volunteers. I mean, I think of ourselves on the council. I don't care what title you put on it. We're volunteers to help the community. And we work with other community groups to make this town run, and we work in a united manner. We are a village of community groups working together. So you can see the items here, and I just want to give a big shout out and thank you to all of the partners. So that ends the mayor's year in review. And I think I'll bring it back for comment, but first I'd like to go to public comment. So is there any public comment on the year in review? If there is, please raise your hand. Yes, I see Ellen Beans. Please let her in.
Okay, she's in.
Hi, Ellen.
Okay, hi. Yeah, am I on now?
You are on, Ellen.
Okay, yeah. It's good to see you all, and thank you, Mike, for your report. I just wanted to thank you for adding the partners at the end, and especially putting the photos of the staff. You know, Cynthia, with whether you're responsible for that, I'm sure you made that happen. But I think it is really nice to have those faces there. So thanks for including that, Mike, because that is just another affirmation of community and all of these elements. And you've stressed the teamwork throughout your presentation. And so that just underscores by that way you ended that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ellen. Okay, I see Kendall Langen.
Wow. Well, I'm sorry. I expected there to be another 10 people before you got to me. And so and Ellen, who I've spoken to only, I've never met her, who just spoke, has been part of our community, and I know is deeply involved. I've lived here my whole life, 68 years. I went to Delray School. I went to Inland Valley. I went to Miramonte. I went to Arizona State. I graduated from Cal. I do commend Mayor McClure and Vice Mayor Walke. You've done a great job. And by the way, welcome, Sona. And I've never, ever, in my mind, denigrated anybody. However, I ran for town council. I was denigrated. And nothing has ever been done. And Mayor McClure, I commend you for your review. I mean, yeah, it's all proper and well. But, you know, I'm pretty proud because I have a new tenant in my office. I own an office building in Moraga. And I'm pretty proud of my new tenant. But I think that most of the people on this town council don't get it. And I know that town staff don't get it. So I'm not being denigrating. I'm not being anything but just telling the truth. I'm like the little boy on the side of the street pulling my daddy's coat saying, "Daddy, Daddy, the king has no clothes." So there are some serious issues in this town that I've lived in my whole life. And I give history lessons all over California, all over this country about California, because I am a member of the Los Californianos. Go check it out. My relatives are my ancestors are the Berryesses. And so I'm very proud of being a Moraga citizen. And all I've ever tried to do is point out issues and things. So thank you very much. And Mayor McClure, my hat is off to you. And you can park in my parking lot anytime you want. And so can any of you other town council members. as well as town staff. You're always welcome to park in my parking lot to go to CC's Coffee Shop, who serves great coffee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kendall. And please put your hand up if you'd like to make public comment. I see Barry Bear. Please let him in.
Good evening.
Barry is muted. Is that, Marty, is that us or him?
Okay, here we go.
Oh,
There you
there we
go. Okay.
Mayor, thank you for your service this year. You know, there've been some really tough issues for all of us. And I think you did a great job of handling leadership for our town. I've lived in many communities here in the Bay Area. And I have to tell you, there is not another community I've lived in where if an issue arose, how easy it was to reach out to our mayor, council members, and staff. And that's why I think you used the term village in your statement earlier. You know, and I've said it before, that's why we live in a town and not a city. I don't want to live in a city. And I just wanted to thank you. I'm sure you got calls every day thanking you for your leadership, and no negative calls. But I'm just going to add on and say thank you so much for your service this last year and getting us where we need to be. There's always areas of improvement, but we're certainly a lot closer to where we need to be than we were probably 12 months ago. So once again, thanks so much. That's it.
Thank you, Barry. If there's anyone else who'd like to make public comment, please do so at this time. I see no other hands, so I'm going to close public comment and bring it back. You don't have to comment, but if you will, go ahead, Councilmember Onoda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I would like to compliment you on your review. You made it so that people who were just tuning in and did not understand what these things were, you pointed out in, you know, plain English what everything was. So good job. And I'm afraid, Ellen Beans, I'm mad at you. You stole what I wanted to say, you know, showing the photos of the staff and, you know, the police and everybody. Great idea. And, you know, those staff that are listening, thank you so much. And I'm sure all of us on council, you know that actually staff could do all of this without us. And I think Renata has said that in the past. They do such a good job. And Mike, good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Sauce.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for that overview. I mean, I was really struck by 12 of the 13 goals that we set at the beginning of the year being checked, and that is a testament to the work of the staff, because we set the goals and then we say, here, you do it, and they did. So I'm just so appreciative that there were so many check marks, and obviously there is still more work to be done, and obviously there are areas for improvement, but I think the overall picture was of an incredibly talented, engaged, and hardworking staff. So thank you.
That's great. Okay, anyone else? Okay, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I echo those comments. Boy, it's really impressive, and you know, a joint partnership, staff and town council. A little surprised that we didn't talk about the GAD, you know, that we officially enacted and made operational the Bella Vista GAD, and I don't know if Sona has been informed of that responsibility yet. I have. You have. Is that off the table for any reason? Anyway, I commend you for leading us through that, Mike.
And Vice Mayor, I'll take responsible for, it wasn't a goal, but it should have been under initiative. So I'll take responsibility for that miss.
I thought you handled the GAD very, very well.
Okay, and then, yes, Councilmember Mocker. Macker.
There you go.
First one.
I've been training.
Yes, no, your training is appreciated. Thank you. As the quote unquote new kid on the block, it's just I'm very optimistic to see not only the success, but the talent behind making these projects happen. And it's very gives me a lot of hope and optimism about the future and working on with this great team of council and staff. And I appreciated the warm welcome with that slide about my appointment. It's been amazing to receive so much onboarding and support. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to conclude this agenda item. We are right at the 2-hour mark, so I'm going to suggest a five-minute break. So we could come back at 8:31, please. And please turn off your videos and mute.
Okay, we're ready.
Okay. It is 8:32. The town council is now back in session. We are now on 10C, number 1, town council reorganization. So number 1, recognition of outgoing mayor. I'm turning this over to the vice mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, as an overall recognition, I want to thank you for the many ways you've supported Moraga this past year as mayor through your leadership. Many of the specific accomplishments, partnership between the staff and town council were reported in your year in review. It was a very busy year. Multiple new activities, including the Geologic Hazard Assessment District, which I found particularly challenging. But you did an excellent job in leading. You participated actively, and you also delegated. Of particular note to me has been your focus on engagement with the whole range of stakeholders, despite the challenges of constrained communications due to COVID. Proactively reaching out, updating, listening, processing the feedback, and communicating for potential action. You have been the ever-ready bunny of stakeholder engagement for us. And I mean that with sincere honesty. And you noted the multi-month community engagement meetings, which you originated, you designed, you organized, and you successfully carried it out. I got to participate as a low-key, you brought me along, and it was just a great thing to participate in. Those 10 organizations, some are prominent, others were less so, but you included them all. And they all expressed strong appreciation for your proactive communication, especially providing updates on the town and interest in listening to them, capturing, presenting the relevant findings, and presenting them. To me, Mike, your prioritization on stakeholder engagement reflects walking the talk in representing the citizens of Moraga, following through commitment with actions. There's a story of 2 brothers from the era of sailing ships. On reaching adulthood, one became a ship's captain and the other became vice president of the United States. Neither was heard from again. And I thank you tremendously for making the role of vice mayor more than just a title. I, really enjoyed participating my role as vice mayor and your including me and delegating to me. And I look forward to continuing to serve with you on the town council. We have several recognitions for you, and why don't we go through those now, if we may?
Yeah.
If you would, I think there is something there from Candace Anderson. Would you like to open that envelope and let's see what's in it?
Yes, this is, and I want to I gave special thanks to the courier who came to my door.
Thank you for
You
mentioning
owe
that I
the
didn't.
courier big time, sir.
I owe the courier big time. That's correct.
Because that doesn't come across too well. Supervisor Candace Anderson on the front page, Contra Costa County District 2 Supervisor. And she's saying a bunch of nice things about myself, concluding with Mike McClure for his service as mayor of the town of Moraga, signed by Candace Anderson. Thank you very much, Candace. I appreciate that. Candace, a delightful person to work with, if I may say.
So there should be a bag there that says thank you, if you would.
Yes. I see that. I have that in front of me. Should I open it?
You should open that and remove it. This is from the town.
Feels heavy. Let's see what we have here. Ooh, oh, a real gavel. I don't know if what you can anybody see this? Probably not, huh? Oh, here we go. This is what I've been using as a gavel. The fine glass, and I hit it on the edge, and that's been my gavel for the last month or last year. Wow, this is pretty impressive. I don't know. I guess I have to be a judge now, huh? This is pretty good.
Can you show it on the camera?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see if I can get this to come out. Let's see. Come on.
So it's a plaque with the gavel.
Maybe I can
it's
stop the
engraved.
background. If I did that. Oh, there we go. No, how did I get that? I'm
Okay.
sorry. I'm
And-
trying to
and
get,
then-
hang on, I'm trying to get rid of the background. Oh, none. That's probably a good choice. There we go. Okay, now,
That's better.
here we go. Here we go. There we go.
Great.
So you got the gavel. Okay, thank you very much.
And then there's the third recognition. If you would open that up, and Cynthia, would you share that if you can?
I'll share once he opens it.
Okay.
Wow. Suitable for framing. All right, let's see. Oh, something on the back.
Yeah, that's a gift certificate, Mike.
Okay, well, wow. Okay, look at this. Oh, the nice pictures. We got St. Mary's. That's a beautiful picture of Moraga there. It looks like from the country club, and the Hacienda, and the All Access Playground. And signatures. Thank you. Original
So
signature.
this is our thank you to you.
Well, thank you very, this is fantastic.
And I
I love the backgrounds, and then having your signatures makes it even more special. And I'll look at the gift certificate later. So thank you very much. That's fantastic.
You're welcome. Those are my comments. I don't know if any other town council members want to add in.
You don't have to, but I'll leave it to everybody's choice. Councilmember Sauce.
Yeah, I would like to add, I mean, Mike, I really appreciated how you approached the job with energy, with enthusiasm, with commitment. I mean, you were out there in the community. You were so accessible and responsive to our constituents. I think you have left a legacy of community outreach that I hope will continue, and getting input early, often, and continually. And I also respected the way that you used your platform to engage community groups and activate them even more than they already are. So I want to just acknowledge that and thank you for it.
Thank you. And I just wanted to say that the vice mayor has been so helpful this year that I had a little something for him. So he has an envelope to open.
I will. I'm very, very surprised by this. This is a very nice gift certificate to La Fenestra. And Mike, thank you so much.
Okay, and if Peggy can't make it, I'm available. So,
Okay, we'll arrange something.
all right.
Thank you.
Okay, and if I could say a few words, just so yeah, first I just want to thank all my colleagues here and staff for making this year happen. I think, we do many good things and we help, each council helps to move the town forward, and that's what it's about. And I think we accomplished that goal. So thank you, Vice Mayor and everyone I know for contributing to these gifts. And thank you, Candace. And I do want to say this, that, I came here for only one reason, and you can guess what that reason is: to serve the residents of Moraga and address the increasing issues I was seeing in the town. I have done and will continue to do my best to serve the interests of our residents, listen to your issues and opportunities, and find solutions to the items that you've identified. I'm not perfect by any measure, but I believe that we, the town, have taken several actions to overall improve this wonderful town, and we'll keep working towards that goal through the eyes of our residents. So a big thank you, Moraga, for the opportunity to serve you. Those are my comments. Okay. Anything else in this topic, or are we ready for the next one? I think we're ready for the next item. So this is 10C2, nomination and election of the mayor. So I think staff did a good job laying out how the process works. So I'll be taking nominations. You don't need to have a second. And when the nominations are complete, we will start with if there's more than one nomination, we would start with the first nomination, and we can have discussion and then vote. So do we have a nomination for the next mayor?
I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make clear that you have a point for public comment in prior to the vote. And generally, we would recommend that you have public comment on item 10C after the nominations.
Oh, I see. Okay, so we'll take nominations, then we'll go to public comment and bring it back.
Mr. Mayor?
Okay, hang on. As presiding officer, I've decided to make the first nomination. I would like to nominate Steve Willoughby for the next mayor of Moraga. Do we have other nominations for the
Yes.
mayor of Moraga? Yes, Councilmember Onoda.
Thank you. I would like to nominate Councilmember Sass.
Okay. So we have a second nomination. Do we have any other nominations for the mayor of Moraga? I hear none. So now let's go to public comment.
You should
Public
close
com-
nominations officially.
Okay. I'm closing nominations officially. And now I'm going to open public comment on the two nominees for the next mayor of Moraga.
Actually,
So-
Mr. Mayor, it would be for the whole item 10C.
Okay, well, Michelle, I was going to take public comment at the end of 10C. That was my plan. So I was going to do it now and at the end.
Oh, if you'd like to do that, that's fine.
Yeah, okay.
That's within your discretion.
Okay, so let's take public comments. I thought I saw a hand up. Does anybody want to make public comment at this time? I see Kendall Langen. Please let Kendall in.
Done.
Hello?
Yeah, I think we can hear you, Kendall.
Okay, cool. So again, it's not an apology to you all, but it is really troubling to me that there's only me. I'm the only raised hand. I don't know who else is listening to this. I hope there's many, but there should be more people watching and speaking. And if not, then this entire situation is like sort of not right. I am going to say, as a very concerned, a very disturbed, not disturbed in that way, disturbed because I'm upset, citizen, that if Steve Wallace is not brought forward as the next mayor, I just cannot imagine. So I just saw Council Member Onata nominate Council Member Sauce. This is block voting going on. This town doesn't need this. I don't know exactly what to do as a very concerned citizen to let other people know what's going on. But other people need to know what's going on. And it's not happening. And so I see what's going on. And I'm calling you all out right now. Vice Mayor Wallace, you have my support as the next mayor. That's the proper way. I do believe the council member Onata is, I don't really want to use any words, but I do not think that the nomination was proper. Thank you very much.
Okay, do we have any other public comment on this item? If you do, please use the raise hand feature. I do not see any public comments. I'm going to close public comment and bring it back for discussion. Do we have any discussion on this topic? I'll be glad to start. We've had a tradition for 47 years since incorporation. And that tradition has been explained to me by past mayors going back to 1980. So I believe it's a reliable tradition, also by current past mayors. And the tradition typically is that you look at the second to the last election and you take the top 2 vote getters. And those people are in line to be mayor. Now, if you don't think they're fit or appropriate or qualified, well, sure, you don't have to follow that. But that is the tradition. And the tradition has served this town extremely well, I think, because it's a natural rotation based on people's votes. And if we followed the rotation, you were good enough to give me an opportunity to be mayor. And I was the first vote getter from 2 elections ago. And Steve Wallace is the second vote getter from 2 elections ago. And then the following year, you would have Renata Sauce as the next mayor following the tradition. So if we follow the tradition, we'll have Steve and then Renata. You could argue maybe Renata should have gone before me. I don't know. But if we just follow the tradition, I think this works out pretty good. So I would encourage to do that. And if you don't think Steve is qualified, well, I feel very differently, but go ahead and make your case because I think he is. No, I'm sorry, I couldn't pick up your finger there. Councilmember Onata.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Or should I not say that? But at any rate,
Almost done.
yeah, almost. Our protocols are different than what you consider the tradition. And the tradition is not always followed. Our protocols say 3.1 election of council officers. The town council is encouraged to rotate the offices of mayor and vice mayor amongst the members of the council according to their order of seniority, considering only the town's 2 most recent election cycles. Renata was appointed in October 2018, served until 2020, when she was elected with over 26% of the votes. that tally was 6,027, which is an all-time high, higher than any of us. So by our protocols, she is to be the mayor. And that's something that Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Renata all voted on. I could end it there, but there's more than that. Renata is unique. She is able to see a situation and narrow it down to the essence. She has proven many times how she can take charge and make the council more productive. 2022 will be a year like no other. The housing element will be consuming almost every monthly meeting. Plus, we have the zoning of Bollinger Valley. This is a year that we need razor sharp focus. I believe Renata is the perfect person for this job for Moraga for 2022. Thank
And
you.
I'm going to disagree with you on how you're interpreting protocols. And by the way, there's a story on protocols that I will be getting into. So you read it very correctly. So it ends to their order of seniority, considering only the town's two most recent election cycles. And in the last two election cycles, the last one, Renata was nominated, and you're right, came in first, well done. But 2 election cycles ago, Steve was elected. So based on the election cycles, Steve is the most senior person.
No.
That's what it says based on the 2 most election cycles. Okay,
She was
council member,
mayor in 2018.
right,
So I
but,
disagree with you.
okay, right, but that's an appointment, not an election. Council member Sauce.
Thank you, Mike. I would just like to speak about why I'm entering this fray, and I don't think the protocols or the tradition or whatever actually really matter. I want to talk about why next year is unique and different, and why I think it compels a different answer. I mean, 2022 is going to pose incredibly significant challenges, but also great opportunities for us as a council, because we're going to be making decisions that are going to affect the look and the feel of the community for years to come. As Teresa mentioned, there's the housing element, there's zoning Bollinger, there's completing a labor negotiation with our staff, keeping in mind both our fiscal responsibility to our community and the importance of our high-performing staff. We have to work with Lafayette and Orinda on the update to the La Miranda Action Plan, which sets the ground rules for how the La Miranda communities plan for and address traffic, congestion, and transportation alternatives to car trips. And finally, we have to work efficiently and respectfully with the town manager and her staff to achieve those objectives. And that's just what we know about today. Being the mayor of Moraga is largely a ceremonial role. The mayor has no more power than any other council member. So why does it matter who's mayor in 2022? I think it matters because the mayor runs the council meetings as the presiding officer. And I believe that to be successful in 2022, this council needs potentially more than ever to maximize the quality and the productivity of its public meetings. We need to make every meeting in 2022 count. And as presiding officer, I think we need the mayor to help steer the council towards the salient issues, towards crisp decision-making, and towards getting things done and away from distractions and sideshows. So I'm aware, and people already have alluded to, that some feel that it's Steve's turn to be mayor. Though I would point out that I happen to agree that based on the factors of seniority and number of votes received, our protocol is way more heavily in favor of my serving as mayor next year. But I think the more important question is who has the skills and the temperament that are required to run productive and successful council meetings through 2022. My advocacy for myself and my throwing my hat in the ring does not reflect a disrespect of Steve. On the contrary, Steve is a committed, and hardworking, significant contributor to this council. And he and I have worked together successfully on a number of projects during our time serving together. Instead, why I'm doing this, it is because it reflects my belief that there is a particular set of skills that I bring to the table that is the skill set that we need in our presiding officer if we are to be successful in managing the issues that are coming to us in 2022. So I believe that I owe it to this town and to its residents to do whatever I can to help this council succeed. Thanks.
Councilmember Macker.
I very much appreciate the overview and background of the protocols. I have reviewed all of these at length on my own and with staff. I think this decision we're making as a council is very serious. And to come to my individual decision, I feel that I need more information. I would like to ask both nominees some questions. I heard what Renata just said, but I do still have questions, and I would like to ask the other nominee, Vice Mayor Wallicki, some questions. I wanted to ask Vice Mayor, starting off with, what makes you suited to be an effective mayor?
And by the way, I think that's very appropriate, and anyone will have the same opportunity.
So I think we have 5 capable candidates to be mayor. And I don't think any one of us is absolutely critical to 2022 being successful. I bring more experience, more town volunteer experience than anyone else. Over 20 years. Design Review Board, Planning Commission, Hacienda Foundation Board of Directors. In each of those organizations, I successfully handled either the chair or the presidency. I have, I think, an excellent working relationship with staff. That can be, you can ask staff. I doubt if they will want to answer that. I bring somewhat unique is a very strong background in decision-making, the principles of decision-making, successful decision-making. And, if I really don't want to do this, but we can talk about some of the decisions the town council has made that really have not served the town well.
Can you?
So, go ahead.
I hear that background, and thank you. Okay, going on to the point though that you just brought up, can you articulate your vision and approach for leadership of this council?
It's very much a collaborative approach to leadership, Sona. I historically delegate. I historically work with staff. I have over 20 years of successfully working with a wide range of staff. I think the question here is, I understand people may feel that they are better qualified, or they may have preference for one or another. The question is, which of us are not qualified? And that's really what Renata and Teresa are communicating, is that I'm not qualified to be the mayor, and I'm not hearing the substance. the hard rules of the protocols are that the mayor cannot be mayor for 2 consecutive terms. So we all take a turn at being mayor for 1 year. So is Renata going to become mayor next year, and then what? Are we going to argue at the end of next year? Well, she's just so special, she's got to be mayor again. If we talk about protocols, in 2018, Renata had not been elected. She had been appointed. And that was the basis for, at that point in time, that Mike McClure became vice mayor. And I followed him as vice mayor. The people chose in 2018 Mike and me. So the seniority argument in terms of being elected by the residents really doesn't hold. I asked Teresa, I asked Renata to really substantiate your claims. Tear me apart. Tell me, do we want to talk about some instances, some examples? We can do that.
Can I ask, since I got to hear your responses to
Right.
those 2 questions,
Sure.
can I hear the responses from Councilmember Sauce to
Sure.
really evaluate the difference or similarities?
Of course.
Councilmember Sauce?
I'm not going to go into anything negative because I don't think that's good for the town. I don't think it's good for this council. I think it's disrespectful for each other. So I'm not going there. I will answer your question, Sona, on how my approach to leading is.
Yes.
And I think it's to hear everyone out, to find points of early agreement, to coalesce around those points of early agreement, and to build on those points towards consensus. And I think I've helped do that over the last 3 years.
I would like to say something here. So if I'm hearing Councilmember Sauce clearly, she's saying it's really not about protocols or tradition, it's the best candidate. And I think making the point of the presiding officer being the key point. To me, the presiding officer can be done by a number of people, and Steve, as he mentioned, was on the Planning Commission Design Review over 10 years. So the ability to be a presiding officer or coalesce a group, I think Steve would be fine. I think Renata can do it too, but I don't see any differentiation here at the end of the day. So if that's the main point of why one's better than another, I don't see it. And the experience on the Planning Commission and Design Review Board of over 10 years, if anything, I'm going to give the nod to Steve Wolicky on that at the end of the day. So once again, it's an important year. I think a lot of years are important years, to be honest with you. But again, the decisions will be by the majority of the council. So the mayor's not going to make a decision. Does the mayor guide us? Sure. Does the mayor help us get along? Sure. Help us be a team, coordinate, collaborate? Absolutely, no question about that. But the decisions will be us, and it will be up to us to keep us the majority, to keep us on track, and the majority to move forward. And I'm convinced that the presiding officer of Steve would be fine. And I'm not disagreeing with Renata, but the presiding officer of Steve would be fine. So I just don't see a differentiation on the skills to be presiding officer at all. So to me, I would say, let's follow the tradition. let Steve have a turn. And you know what? 2023, we have multiple years for the advanced planning directive. So Steve will guide us in 22 and let Renata guide us in 23. I would say that would be fair. Okay, I see Councilmember Onoda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to call the question.
Before we discuss that, I would respect that all voices get to be heard on this important issue much longer than we've spent. So I'm going to personally disagree with that.
Point of order.
Yes, go ahead.
I think that when the question is called, there needs to be an immediate vote under the protocols.
Okay, let's take a vote on that. I guess I will do that. I don't see the town manager. So on the town manager, we need to take a vote to call the point. So would you take a roll call? And if it's affirmative, then we go directly to the vote. If it's not affirmative, then we can have additional discussion. So is that clear to everybody?
Is that the way that it works? You vote whether you want to call the question or you call the question?
What I believe is happening is that Councilmember Sauce has made a point of order. The mayor has disagreed with that, and we need to see if anybody wants to appeal the decision of the mayor on the point of order. If a council member does seek to appeal that decision of the point of order by the mayor, then there would be a vote. And if there is a majority vote, the majority vote would, or if there is a vote, the vote would be, should the decision of the mayor be, point of order be followed? So right now, there's no appeal. There's been no council member who's appealed. So if there's a council member who wants to appeal the mayor's decision on not to close the debate, there was that. So now there would be a vote. And the vote would be on should the decision of the presiding officer or the mayor be sustained.
May I ask a question of council?
Sure, please do.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Teresa moved to call the question. And Michelle, my understanding of that is that means there needs to be an immediate vote. What's unclear to me is the vote on the nominations or is the vote on calling the question?
I believe the vote would be, well, I think where we're at right now is we have delved into the point of order stage. So I think there does not need to be a response to the point of order at this point. To calling the question, then there wouldn't be a point of order. It would be just call the question. And I'm looking right now for the rules on calling the question in the protocols. So our protocols say that when there is a motion to call the question, there should be no further debate except on whether or not to close the debate.
Right.
So I think that's where we're at. And you know, Councilmember Sauce, I believe that you made a point of order, so we ruled on that. And either way, I think at this point, there needs to be a vote. The question is, do you want to withdraw your point of order then, Councilmember Sauce? And then we would just deal with Councilmember Onoda's question to call the debate. I think what
Yes.
happened is that, you know, we didn't act on that. Then there was a point of order. And so if we want to go back, I would ask you, Councilmember Sauce, to withdraw your point of order. And then we would just deal with Councilmember Onoda's motion to close the debate.
Yeah, so I'll withdraw the point of order. And does there need to be a second to call the question?
No.
Okay, all right.
And
So now there just needs to be a debate on whether or not that we should close, the council should close the debate.
so Michelle, can we have commentary on the motion to call the question?
Yes.
Okay, and that's what I was trying to say is that since this is so important and we should take, the time it needs to have all voices heard. And I think we've just started with some of the comments. This is really important. So I just think it's premature. It's early in the night. We have time. Let's take the time, please, and hear all voices, and then we can decide. It's my 2 cents. I saw some other hands first. Were those other hands still up there, Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not in favor of voting, closing at this point. I still have some comments I'd like to make. Thank you.
Okay, and I thought I saw, yes, Councilmember Macker.
I am gathering relevant information here, but I had the floor and I had said that I wanted to ask a few questions, namely 3 questions. I asked both nominees 2. I did still have 1 further question that I wanted to ask of both while I had the floor, but things had shifted as people weighed in.
And Councilmember Sauce.
I don't think we should deprive Sona of the opportunity to get whatever information she needs. I just would suggest that we agree as a group that we're going to go high on this and not low, and that our comments and discussion be not rehashing history or going through the council's dirty laundry, but rather focusing on looking forward and what's best for this town for next year.
I will agree with that, but all facts can be put on the table that may not put the council in the best light, but facts are facts. I will offer that.
I would be happy to hear Councilmember Macker's other questions. And I agree 100% with Councilmember Sauce. I don't want to hear bad things about anybody. We're all volunteers. We work really hard for this town. And I want this to be a positive experience for everyone and everybody who's listening. So I'll be happy to hear Sona's questions and the answers.
And Vice Mayor?
Thank you. I also think we should stay high. However, I note that just by the actions that Councilmembers Onoda and Sauce take, deviating from the historic precedents, historic norms, you're doing that already. How can you say you want to stay high when you do this? I would like to further communicate to Councilmember Macher about decision-making and leading to better answer a question at the same level that Councilmember Sauce addressed it. If you're interested in hearing.
Yes.
So Steve, you wanted to elaborate on her previous question.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
But let me talk about, Councilmember Sauce talked about how she addresses questions, and let me or addresses leadership. And I equate that also to decision making. Because that is a role of the leader, of the mayor, is to drive towards quality decisions. And what I practice is the following. There are 6 elements to it, Sona. The first element is making sure you know what you're trying to achieve. What's the objective? And that isn't, a superficial, what is the objective? It's going deep. The second thing is evaluating a wide range of alternatives, not immediately focusing on the answer, but keeping a broad, open mind. The third element is ensuring that you have meaningful and reliable information. You can't make good decisions if you don't have good data. Fourth, understanding your values and trade-offs. What are the important aspects? How do you trade off? And I've used it before. Trading off experience versus decision-making capability. That's a trade-off I made fairly recently. The fifth one is using logically correct reasoning. Taking all the material from the first 4 elements to make a quality decision. And the sixth element is really, how do you bring along the stakeholders? And there have been examples where I've pursued that. That's how I address decision-making, and that's sort of how I try to drive or try to set expectations for the town council. And that's to serve the citizens of Moraga.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will just ask this question of both nominees then. I feel like we're living in unprecedented times. I don't know when we'll be able to be meeting in person again. And we've spoken in this discussion about the importance of running the meeting as a presiding officer. So I would like to ask each nominee, what is the most effective way as a presiding officer to lead and run council meetings? Vice Mayor Walke, and then I would like to ask the same to Councilmember Sauce.
What is the most effective way to meet and run meetings? So my answer in general, Sona, and everybody goes as follows. The pandemic and the state of emergency, declaration of emergency, is driving how we meet. It's a given that we're going to continue to meet via Zoom until we can meet again face to face. More importantly, the role of the leader, facilitator, mayor, is to ensure that all members of the town council, all stakeholders are heard. This includes those who are perhaps people that you don't normally want to hear from. And that happens in the town council. That includes everybody. And, sometimes I will call on people who are quiet and ask them to contribute. If someone is an outlier, the leader should ask for reasoning why they feel differently. That's sort of my
Thank you.
My contribution on that side, Sona.
Thank you. Ask the same to Councilmember Sauce.
Yeah, I think the first thing is to understand what the objectives and the goals and the outcomes of the meeting are being sought. Two is, I agree with the vice mayor, it's to hear from everyone, the public, from council members, from stakeholders, from interested parties, because I think it's really important that everyone know that they are heard and that they are engaged in the process. Three is to then separate the wheat from the chaff and figure out what data points are important to the decision-making that needs to be made. And then four is to, again, try to find points of early agreement, have the five coalesce around that, and then build towards a collective decision that is in the best interest of the town as a whole.
Thank you.
I have a comment and then a question for Councilmember Sauce. I think perspective is always good. When the protocols were being done, trying to remember if I have the year right, it was in 19. The protocol, the future agenda item by Steve Wilkie, greatly expanded. During the protocols, and they went on for hours, there was a suggestion, this wasn't even part of the original request. And a council member at a time, well, you know what? I think we should add the section on how council mayors are elected. And so this was in a red line late at night given to us. Hey, this is what it should be. So we looked at it and I asked the question, this is public record on tape. Is this the current tradition that exists today? And I was told yes. Later did I find out, well, it's close, but it's not really. Because I read this and I said, okay, you're going to take seniority based upon the last two elections. It should be the last two elections, the highest voter, but very similar. So anyway, just so you know, per public record to me, this was delivered, this was framed as the tradition, and it wasn't. Now, whether that's intentional or not intentional, I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to tell you, for public record, this was stated to be the tradition at the end of the day. I have other thoughts. I'm not going to say anything about that. Trying to keep it high. So, Councilmember Sauce, I'm going to ask you this question. I think I have to ask you this. So we're talking about presiding officer. So do you believe, and feel free to comment, that when you were executive director of the Moraga Community Foundation, and during your tenure as executive director presiding over that, an embezzlement of funds occurred? Do you believe that's relevant to this decision?
No.
Okay.
And I think that's not a fair question. And I wasn't the executive director either. So I was the president of the board. The facts speak for themselves.
Mhm.
I don't think that is related at all.
Okay, I guess I say it differently. Do we have other comments?
I have one.
Yeah.
I think you just went lowball. So I think you crossed the line. That's all I have to say.
That wasn't really a question, but again, I said facts, and that is, so if we're talking about somebody presiding over an organization, there was an example of presiding over an organization. I would agree with Councilmember Sauce. Yes, it was president of the board. So that was the role, but president of the board has a fiduciary responsibility. So to me, that needed to be said. I said it, I'm done.
Well, but it's unfair, Mike, because you could, if you'd like to ask me about my 25 plus years of serving on boards and leading the California Board of Accountancy and doing that, I'd be happy to go through all of that. So that was one piece of a very long resume. So and again, I find it irrelevant.
Okay, fair enough. So I'll just, and I think maybe we're getting ready here to bring this to call. My conclusion, if this revolves around the presiding officer, I don't see a sufficient reason not to follow the tradition and make Steve Wallachy the next mayor. I think both Renata and Steve have good qualities. Let everybody take a turn. And yes, 22 is going to be a tough year, and 23 will be too. The advanced planning initiative goes on for years. And then let's work together. So help Steve and help Renata to be the best mayor they can for the next 2 years. That's what I'd like to do, not have this conversation. So that's all I have to say. Councilmember Onoda.
Thank you. I've seen lots of mayors. I've been on council for a long time. I've been mayor. And what I've seen with Renata is exactly what she said. She has figured out, when we're all deliberating, what do we really need to do? And she's reined us all in many times and figured out, okay, we've gone off base. We need to come back and figure that out, figure out what exactly we need to do. And I think that's a true gift. And she's done it. And that's the reason that I nominated her. And to what Steve has said, that he spent all this time on all of these groups. Renata has been on planning as well. I've been on planning. Mike's been on planning. We've all given tons of time to this town in many, many ways. So, and Sona has given time in other towns or cities. So that's kind of who we are. That just doesn't distinguish us from each other. But what does distinguish us is how Renata can use razor sharp thoughts and get us to the place that we need to be in the smallest amount of time. And we don't go on forever. So that's a real gift. And I know I'm repeating myself, so I'm going to stop.
Okay, Vice Mayor.
I'm getting tired of this. Renata, you've made bad decisions. You made a really bad decision on August 25th. Have you yet apologized to staff? I'm getting a little bit tired of this backhanded insults. On the 25th of August, you threw away 7 years of staff efforts on the Camino Pablo Annex project. Have you apologized to staff? Have you apologized to the applicant who spent $850,000 and likewise spent 7 years? Have you apologized to Supervisor Anderson that we're now depending upon her to mitigate the impact, the negative impact on Moraga, because that is now a project before the supervisors? It's talked about your razor sharp decision-making. Well, that's one example of several that has really hurt Moraga. So I'm getting a little bit tired of people saying, we got to stay high. And it's really, you don't want to deal with, you want to throw out barbs, but you don't want to deal with reality. Reality is that was a bad decision. And you were very much part of it. When are you going to stand up and apologize? Take responsibility for that. And that same goes to you, Teresa.
That was a 4-1 vote. And Vice Mayor, you were the only one who voted no. The rest of us, or we voted no, you're the only one who voted yes. So
maybe I was the only right one.
Maybe not.
It's now before I warned you. It's now before the supervisors. Can we deal with reality? Vote how you're going to vote.
I think it is fair.
Let's stop the the insults.
I think it is fair to use an example. In Mulberry Preschool was a pretty good one. We were, I believe this was the first meeting in September. There was still some confusion over the terms, and the question before us was to approve the staff recommendation or continue the meeting. At that meeting, Councilmember Sauce said, let's approve staff's decision, subject to further conversations. And in my next conversation with Michelle and Denise, I said, can you help us with that? Because we've now approved something that gets a little hard to change at the end of the day. And negotiations went on for weeks and weeks. And Michelle was the one who advised me that in that situation, Mike, it's usually best, it's late at night. This was one of those 4.5 hours. Just
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
my conversation with you is privileged. I just want to make sure
Correct.
we, so that we don't want to divulge what was said in a privileged
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, and thank you for that reminder there. But I did talk to staff counsel. In my opinion, is that the ability to continue the meeting is more helpful in that situation than making an approval when we really didn't understand what was in front of us. Now, that's one item. I'm sure we could all sit here and come up this year with, well, one item, Mike, you led us in this direction, and I didn't. We could all do that. I'm just not seeing the difference, and the compliments that Teresa gave to Renata. There's compliments that should go to Steve. And so, you know, let's try to work together here. I'm not seeing the difference and trying to pick out, well, this here's an example where I didn't think you really cut to the chase and led us in a different direction. But then in July, this happened in March. I really don't think that's worth our time. I just don't see any significant, to not follow the tradition. I think you really need to have a significant issue that somebody's just not capable or fit to be a presiding officer or be the ceremonial mayor or work with. I mean, there has to be a significant issue. One's a little better than the other. I mean, we can even sit here and say, you know, what are those characteristics that make the best mayor? But if there's no significant difference, and I'm suggesting there isn't, both are good people and they can be good presiding officer. Just follow the tradition. Steve gets a shot this year, Renata next year. Next year, we'll have a new set of challenges. I'm sure we will. So I'm not going to say anymore. So I'm ready.
Let's do it.
If that doesn't persuade anybody, then I don't know what else to do. Is there any other comment on this item? Okay, so I think we're ready. And I believe the order is the first nomination. So that will be for the nomination of Steve Wilkie to be the next mayor of Moraga. Town manager, would you like to take the vote on this? Roll call vote.
Councilmember Sauce,
No,
Councilmember Anoda,
No,
Councilmember Macker,
No,
Vice Mayor Wilkie,
Yes,
Mayor McClure.
Yes, motion fails, 2 votes for, 3 against. The next nomination we have is the nomination for Renata Sauce as the next mayor of Moraga. Roll call vote, town manager, please.
Councilmember Sauce,
yes,
Councilmember Anoda,
yes,
Councilmember Macker,
yes,
Vice Mayor Wilkie,
no,
Mayor McClure.
No, motion passes. Sona Macker is, excuse me, Renata Sauce is the new mayor.
congratulations,
of
Sona.
Moraga. I'm sorry, sorry, a little punchy here. Okay, so I am now with that. I am now turning the mayorship over to Renata. It's already been done. And Renata, if you will lead the rest of the meeting, starting with 10C3, please.
Thank you. All right, nominations and election of the vice mayor. Do we have any nominations for vice mayor? Steve,
nominate Sona Makur, Vice Mayor.
Any other nominations? I nominate Teresa Noda for vice mayor. Any other nominations? All right, close nominations. I believe I need to take we need to take public comment.
No, public comment was already taken in the beginning of the item.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Any discussion? Mike,
I'd like to ask a question of Councilmember Mocker, if I may. Madam Mayor,
yes, I'm sorry. Yes, of course.
I just want to make sure it's appropriate. Okay, so, so Councilmember, we're glad you're here. The only question I wonder for Vice Mayor is, should someone this new be Vice Mayor? I don't necessarily disagree, but I just wondered from your perspective, do you feel someone this new should be Vice Mayor?
I would roll up my sleeves and be up for the job, but I do think the organization can and should benefit from the tenure and experience of someone who has been here longer than me.
Okay.
Any other, Steve?
I profess that this is a really tough decision. And my nominating Sona was a really tough thing to do. I excluded Mike because he's currently mayor, and so it doesn't make sense that he become vice mayor, although maybe that's the right solution. What I know is that Teresa is not a good solution. And, you know, I'm sorry, Teresa, but you're an emotional decision maker. And the evidence of that comes from August 25th again, where you used your artistic perspective to justify denying the appeal of the applicant. The applicant who came to the town in 2014 with a proposal for a small housing project on 24 acres, or most of it's was going to be retained for open space, and asked if the town would work with them and they would annex the land to the town. And the town responded yes. That applicant could have gone to the county in 2014 instead of 2021, saved them 7 years, $850,000. And you used artistic perspective to justify denying their appeal. That just isn't a credible argument, Teresa. Again, you should be apologizing to staff. You know, guys, decisions we make impact staff. We have them do things, and sometimes those are bad decisions, but they have to do it anyway. And sometimes we discard their work. There are consequences to that. Those guys who have proposed it, they're good people. They've been ranchers out there forever. And you used artistic perspective to deny their appeal. Shame on us. And you should also apologize to Supervisor Anderson for depending upon her now to minimize the negative impact on Moraga. I'm not alone in my assessment here on this. For that reason and past actions that you made, including as mayor, I can't support it. Once again, just like in terms of selecting the town council replacement, i.e. Sona, I make the trade-off on quality of decision-making, the potential quality of decision-making versus the experience. And in this case, it's bad experience.
Teresa, did you want to say something?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. My artistic opinion happens to be the general plan. I voted and I will continue to always vote for the general plan. The general plan said that that could be 7 to 9 houses, not, what was it, 13 or 15 with ADUs. It was not, it was against the general plan. And I agree, those people are wonderful. I've known the Carr family for years. Tracy Carr used to babysit my kids. I've talked to Catherine Carr millions of times about horses. Scott Carr is great. He does great fences, like I said. So it had nothing to do with the Carr family, which I think is important. As a council member, my job is to go with the general plan, not for whoever it is that's asking for a development. That has nothing to do with it, nor should it. I will go by the general plan every time.
All right, shall we close down debate? Does everyone have enough information on which to vote?
I don't.
Yeah. Steve?
Roles and responsibilities. The town council is the entity that decides on potential changes to the general plan. And by the way, I pointed out on the 25th that the land use diagram in the general plan is not credible. And it isn't. It has to be corrected.
All right, any additional, Sona?
Yeah, I just will say that when I was answering Councilmember McClure's question, which I appreciate, I answered directly that, acknowledging that I am newer and I would roll up my sleeves and do the job. And I do have a lot of experience in leadership experience that I could bring to the council to do that. So in answering your question, while I think it's always good to have the benefit of institutional knowledge, I would be up for the job and lean into my leadership experience to do that.
Any other comments? All right. I believe we go in order of the nomination. So the first nomination was for Sona Macker for vice mayor. Cynthia, would you do the roll call vote, please?
Sure, and you're welcome to take over that if you want to. But, okay, so hold on a second. I got a mayor. Okay, all right.
Steve, Councilmember Steve.
Councilmember Woolagee. Councilmember Onoda.
Yes.
Councilmember McClure.
Yes.
Councilmember Mocker.
Yes.
Mayor Sauce.
Yes, it's unanimous. Congratulations, Sona.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, Sona, would you like to make any remarks as the new vice mayor?
Sure. Well, I had just articulated this a minute ago, but that I'm really optimistic and excited, and I have a lot of experience in leading different types of teams with different types of stakeholders. And I think at this stage where we are the coming year, we're going to be interacting with lots of different stakeholders where we all need to be ready and prepared to listen to all perspectives. And I am excited, willing, and ready to do that.
Thank you. And if I may just add, I know this was a rough discussion that we just had. And we obviously have some disagreement both in philosophy and approach and our evaluation of everybody's respective skill sets, but it's behind us. We're now moving forward. We have a lot to do. And I know this is a very committed and engaged council. Every single one of you is doing fantastic work and is so committed to this town and serving our constituents that it is a pleasure to serve with you. And I look forward to a productive, engaged, transparent 2022 with continued community outreach, which has already been started, and accessibility to the people that we serve. Do any council members have anything to add? No? Okay, next agenda item, discussion items. There are none. Number 12, council requests for future agenda items. Are there any requests? Hearing none. On to communications. I don't believe there are any communications. So we are at, oh, I'm sorry, Mike.
No, I thought you were just about ready to get to adjourn.
Are you ready to make a motion to adjourn? Please.
Yeah, it's a special moment. I'd like to move to adjourn the meeting in honor of Cliff Dockerman and his community service to Moraga and throughout the world.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let's take a vote. Councilmember Onoda,
Yes.
Councilmember McClure,
Yes.
Councilmember Wolke,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Macker,
Yes.
Mayor Sauce, yes. It's unanimous. Thank you, everybody. We're adjourned. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.